Hello. Good afternoon. Uh-oh, people standing up. My name is Chauncey Larsen. I work on the Surface Commercial Technical Marketing team. I lead our technical narrative, and we're going to talk about unleashing AI productivity with Surface. But before I get started, I do want to have another individual come up on stage with me. His name is Jack Cowett. Jack, why don't you come on up? Woo! Jack, who are you and what do you do?
Well, 13 years on the Surface business, I've done a little bit of everything. At the moment, I look after our commercial engineering teams, taking feedback from our customers and partners, driving into the roadmap so we build better products.
Awesome. Thank you. Jack's going to be up here. He's going to do a little bit of bantering with me, but I'm going to start, and then I want you to hear from him. One of the things I really wanted is to make sure that he came up here and provided his voice around kind of the things that he's seen across engineering and how AI has been really kind of impacting that as of late. So why don't we get started on kind of my part, and we'll go from there. Assuming I'm hitting the right button. All right. That's why. All right. So
it's a good start, Chauncey.
Good start. Just dropping things left and right. Nailed it. The big thing I want to mention is that right now, the way that we interact with technology is evolving. If there's anything that you've heard a million times coming out of this event, is that AI is fundamentally changing everything that we're doing. But I think in a major way from a human perspective, it's changing the way that we interact with data. It's changing the way that we interact with the computers in front of us, with the devices that are in our pocket. It is fundamentally changing the way that we think about computers and the way that we think about building computers as well. The thing that is very fascinating to me is we're moving towards an age where we're not having to learn a computer. I don't know about the rest of you in this room. I grew up learning on, funnily enough, an Apple device, where I had to understand file structures. I had to understand syntax. I had to understand a whole bunch of different things that then, I think clued into the rest of my life of what it meant to interact with a computer. But we're moving towards a point where the computer's going to be able to act on your behalf and really think on what you're trying to achieve and kind of work towards outcomes. We're moving towards a world where you're allowed to be more a computer can be human-centric, right? You don't have to be dedicated to this spot where you're having to really kind of think about all that stuff. See, so I just always hit the button. There we go. The other thing that was kind of important here is that we are able to start limiting the amount of repetition. I don't know about you, but for me, I am always having to do kind of repetitive tasks when it comes to building slides, when it comes to kind of thinking about blogs and the different things that I release as a marketer. But I'm now able to offload a lot of that stuff to AI. And at the same time, information has been more available to me. It's being democratized across the board to where I can get it at my fingertips and I have access to it faster than ever, enabling me to be, I think, on my kind of the most recent version of myself. And I can really reach out to my peers. I can reach out to anything to kind of help collaborate that information. It's also making all processes easier and kind of less of, again, of a burden, which frees me up to innovate. It frees us up to innovate, and it frees us up to bring kind of that highest level of intelligence to kind of help push us forward. And that ultimately helps us drive results. It helps us to be the most impactful version of ourselves, and really, frankly, it helps us achieve more. Any kind of thoughts on that front?
Perfect, Chauncey.
All right, awesome. Fun thing about this conversation, though, is this has kind of been an evolution over the past, decades, right? If you think about AI originally back in the mid-20th century, we started doing algorithms on paper punches. You'd hand these paper punch cards over to this person that was sitting at a desk. That person may or may not mess it up, and then bring it back, and we would kind of build these algorithms. And it was literally back to that very local kind of hardware state. That gave way to mainframes, being able to kind of develop other kind of AI and machine learning. That gave way to GPUs to be able to start really training AI models. But eventually we kind of hit this static state to where we needed the ability to scale at a mass of data and scale at a mass of information that only the cloud could offer, right? If you kind of even think about like where Copilot is going, it needed access to vast amounts of information and vast amounts of power in order to kind of make it bear. It also provided the ability for us to then scale that to everyone else. You can access a lot of these capabilities in your pocket. You can access a lot of these capabilities, heck, from anything from like a phone in your pocket to like a car half the time, right? So the cloud has really been able to provide scalable compute that is just kind of unrealized in terms of the way that AIs can grow. But now we're moving to a point where we need to bring that human point back into it. We can bring the local back into that story, and you're starting to see new devices pop up. Again, you've got mobile devices, you've got all sorts of new laptops in the case of like some of our 𝗦𝗲𝗍𝗶𝗁 PCs that are bringing forward these new generations of processors that really can process AI more efficiently and bring some of these AI capabilities right at your fingertips, which provides a lot of, I think, additional benefits that we'll be talking about here later today. But why is this important? Like, what is the whole value of kind of bringing that all here? Well, that's because ultimately devices are essential to this equation. Devices represent that interaction between human and AI. And yeah, do you need to build things in the cloud? Do you need to have like AI training up there? And do you need to be able to deliver things in the cloud? Absolutely. But ultimately, it's not going to do much unless you can have someone interact with it. And more importantly, have an amazing interaction with it. Because if it's poorly interacted, you're not going to have the adoption rate that you want. And so this kind of brings us to this idea from a Surface perspective that AI adoption demands a device strategy. It's important that when you're moving forward with your AI strategy in your business, that you really think how how devices impact the way that your individuals are going to be interacting with the AI technology that you're rolling out. The more accessible it is, the easier it is for them to be able to take that on the go. That's one of those things that are key to really kind of driving that AI adoption that we're going to need to be able to kind of make business thrive in this age of this era of AI. And there's some key experiences that we see from a Surface perspective bring this to bear. When it comes to like premium experiences that drive AI value, you think about Surface at its core, and I'll talk about this here in a little bit, but Surface at its core is all about that premium experience. We really put a ton of passion, a ton of experience, a ton of research into driving the best AI experiences possible. But that second one, and I think Jack's going to be talking about that later, is this notion of security being core to that business as well, and really thinking about how security and privacy enables AI to be adopted with peace of mind. And there's a lot to be said about ensuring that your AI experiences are secure. And finally, as a business, you want to enable flexible technology that adapts at that pace, right? AI is constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. And you need the hardware that's going to be able to kind of support that future as you grow with it, as AI grows with you. So we think that's where Surface really comes in. Surface brings AI to life. Surface brings Microsoft to life. That's our core purpose, ultimately, is to bring the best of Microsoft, right? If you think about back in the day, and I know that Jack's going to be talking about that here in just a little bit, of like, what was Surface's purpose? Well, we were always here to really enable Windows to shine, to enable Microsoft experiences to shine, and AI is no different. And we think that in a lot of ways that those premium experiences, that security that I mentioned, and that AI innovation and agility is all supported with all the things that we bring to bear across top-level hardware, across that secure and deep research that we put into all of our devices to really kind of enable the best hardware that we can bring to the market. So without further ado, Jack, I'd love for you to talk about that history.
You got it, Chauncey. I don't think I'm going to use your clicker.
Yeah, that's fine.
It scares me a little too much. Okay, 13 years with the Surface business. This is personal to me. I joined the team when we were sitting down and writing the business case to go justify building first-party hardware. And that was a scary moment for us. It meant we were going to have to do something different. But we did it because we felt like the industry needed a jolt. We weren't in this, we weren't getting in this to go copy what others were doing. We were ready to go spend the money, hire the scientists, find the right engineers, build the right labs, and push. And that is what we have done. For 13 years, I've been on a journey of trying and failing, trying and failing, trying and failing. And if you hear me say fail and it sounds scary, it doesn't to me. It's a core part of our culture. If we aren't innovating, if we aren't pushing, if we aren't failing, we are not doing our job. So for the first 7 years, we pushed hard on the physics. We pushed hard on feedback from our customers about different types of devices and different interaction models. We brought touch to Windows. We brought pen and ink to Windows. We brought Windows Hello and authentication in a new way that was more seamless and secure. 2017, our applied sciences group started experimenting with small language models and started looking at what we could do with AI and our silicon partners to improve these products. It started with battery protection mode, we call it BPM, and it pretty quickly evolved in 2019 till we started to correct your eye gaze using AI in the background. The gentleman with the long hair that you see on the screen, his name's 𝗦𝗲𝗶𝗸𝗀𝗍𝗲, an incredible human, an unbelievable scientist, and someone that you should all go and look up and just learn more about this man. He has brought a team of people together at Microsoft that has been given a lot of encouragement, support, and resources to just go experiment. We don't know how much of this is going to make it into our products, and it doesn't matter. If we're not experimenting and we're not in the labs, we're not doing our job. So Stevie came up with a lot of this eye gaze technology, working with our silicon providers in the early iterations of these neural processing units. We moved along and we started experimenting with this beautiful camera that sits on the top of Surface Hub 2S. That camera created this incredible wide-angle view, and it used the NPU to start to track you as you moved around the room. At the moment, I'm sure there's a cameraman with a camera on me and they're going to follow me as I move, but we could start to do that without any human interaction. It became really apparent to us pretty quickly that we needed to shrink that thing from a $700, $800 device that's massive down into something that could fit in an incredibly thin and light Surface Pro or Surface laptop display. And that was the journey that we were on. 2019, you saw us continuing to push and launch Surface Pro X. And then COVID happened. COVID happened, everyone went home, and the way that we work changed. It changed for all of us. All of a sudden, we were not in the office. We were sitting in front of our computers in our messy bedrooms. We were turning on Teams, and we were working for 9, 12 hours sitting in front of that display. The workload changed. The compute capacity that we needed changed. The importance of being able to blur your background all of a sudden became super important. Not everyone had a designer to go rearrange their books and move the laundry. Like, I know this is real. As I look out here, I can see some of you nodding. This experience was real for all of us. You had this experience where you needed to do your job, but there was a lawnmower outside or a leaf blower outside, or your kids were yelling in the background. You wanted to appear professional. We came up with ways to handle that, but they just were not efficient. And so we started looking at, can we offload some of this work to the cloud? Can we offload some of this work to the MPU? Can we avoid taxing the CPU and GPU and getting this to hum efficiently on these devices? And we did. That work that we did, we share with the ecosystem. That is the role that we play. We're able to go into rooms at Microsoft and work hand in hand with teams, hand in hand with the M365 team. People sometimes ask me, like, where is Surface's better together story? Where can I see the fact that first-party hardware, first-party software coming together makes a difference? I'll tell you, Teams is an incredible example. We're able to take their code, take our new devices with NPUs, put them together, sit in temperature-controlled environments that replicate a warm London apartment, test, push, improve. All that work helped us start to refine these models, helped us start to dream about where we could take it. We knew the bigger picture that was coming together with Satya, with other leaders at the company, with the AI work that was still foundational, still behind closed doors, but we knew this was important. I think I see some of my silicon partners in this crowd today over here. Paul, is that you? We pushed super hard with Qualcomm. It's not always obvious the direction you're going to go. It's not always obvious for each party, but when you get together and you push, you say, what's possible? What's it going to take to get there? I'll stop there. You can tell that this history matters to me. Each step along the way was a year of my life. Now we're at this moment where the story really comes together and these beautiful Copilot plus PCs exist. So let's go to the, are you going to drive slides for me? Thank you, Chauncey. We now have these two sets of beautiful devices that are out there in the market. You have the Windows 11 AI PCs from Intel. You've got the 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗸𝗀𝗁 PCs that we launched with Qualcomm, and these are incredible offerings for our business customers. There has been a lot of voices from our customers and partners that made their way into these products. People asked us for anti-reflective displays. We put it in the product. People asked us to build in card readers for the US federal government. We put it in the product. Healthcare customers asked me to put an NFC reader in there so that they could be Imprivata ready and badge on the device and get into it quickly and authentically in a secure way. People pushed us for more performance. We did it. I am so proud of these products. It's been fun to show them off. There's a few customers in the audience that I've met with, and when I see on their face and in their voice that they love what we're doing and they say, Jack, keep going, you're pushing in the right direction, the beautiful hardware coming together with this experience is magical, man, it makes me proud. So we've got these two beautiful devices. I can sell them all day long. I can talk about every nuance of the hardware, but none of that matters if I can't guarantee the security. Almost every conversation I had this week started with, I love this AI stuff, the demos are super amazing, I'm a little bit scared, I'm not sure how to handle it, I'm not sure what my boss is gonna think. But please, Jack, tell me that these things are gonna be secure, tell me that I'm gonna have the controls that I need, tell me that I'm gonna be able to guarantee privacy, that my end users are gonna feel comfortable, that at a central level we can manage these things. That is paramount to everything we do at Microsoft. Trust, your trust, is paramount of concern for me and for the team. So every level, from the TPM to the chipset, to the operating system, to the cloud infrastructure and these AI experiences we are thinking through, we are focused on. There have been challenges along the way with this journey, which we have acknowledged, talked about, learned from, and moved forward. That's why I said it's not terrible thing to fail, to learn, to expand, to keep going. So security is paramount to this story. The other part, Chauncey talked about this, but there's been this journey from the edge to the cloud and back to the edge. When I meet with customers, they tell me, hey, I use 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 Copilot, and I believe that's running in the cloud, but Jack, you're talking about an NPU, and you're telling me it's important to run these at the edge. There is a use case for both. We are committed to seeing this thing through, truthfully, and I think this probably resonates just as humans. There are scenarios that are going to be better to run at the edge, and there are scenarios that really need to benefit of the scale of the cloud. We tried to bring the hardware together with this, even if you're working in the cloud, and so we put that Copilot button on the Surface keyboard, making it super easy to just click that thing, jump right into Copilot with 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, grab the answer that you're looking for, do the document summarization that's needed. There was a customer I met with earlier that was telling me it was annual review season for them. And they had a lot of managers that were working through, I just got all the feedback from my team about what they've accomplished, what they're proud of this year, and I don't have a ton of time. I want a simplified view of this. And they said using Copilot for that summarization has been incredible. Using Copilot to start to articulate my response to that has been a huge time saver. For me, like, I want to just tell you authentically, this may not be the coolest scenario, but for me, what I do all the time is hit that Copilot button, go into the image creator, and use it to create simple pictures for PowerPoints. I'm not in the marketing team. I don't have access to fancy slide deck resources, but I need to tell stories to bring my engineering partners along on the journey. And so all day long, I'm pressing that button, I'm creating an image that I think is going to help me tell my story, and I love it. Now let's go to the other side. Let's jump into the edge. What matters at the edge? Privacy and security matters at the edge. Being able to work on the edge when you don't have an internet connection matters. The two that really resonate most with me are the one that says instant, and this is really about latency. Man, the speed which we work today is incredible. And when anything lags, my gosh, it is frustrating. My patience for latency 3 years ago, 4 years ago, was a lot higher than it is today. I need things to work fast. Doing this at the edge allows that. The second is really power and efficiency. This connects back with the stories about everyone going home and working on teams. We have a lot of things that we're doing at the same time, and that performance needs to be balanced. The load needs to be balanced. When we were just hitting the CPU and the GPU, we weren't in the most efficient state that we could be. We add this third brain with the MPU and we start to create efficiency across the system. I think the next slide is probably a picture that shows what that performance means. You can see the same task that's happening here is occurring on the CPU and is occurring on the GPU, and you're quickly going to see the same series of pictures showing up on the NPU, but it's happening faster. Sometimes these topics are hard to explain. They require scientists and physicists and AI experts, and I get a little bit intimidated even though I've been working on this for 13 years. Look at a simple visual like this and it tells you all you need to know. We've got this super efficient brain built for machine learning algorithms and large, small language models. The MPU is an incredible tool that we all get to start using. It's not as if the future is here, the future is starting and we get to go create this together. I know there's people in the room probably that are working on their own language models, figuring out how to deploy these in their own businesses. And the next few years are going to be fun to invent together using this MPU. I think there's another scenario in here I wanted to talk about, which is one of the demos that people do around real-time translation. Now, why does this matter? For me, it's a really personal thing because I have a team of engineers spread out all over the world. I've got a gentleman named Green that lives in Tokyo, Japan. Green is unique because he speaks English, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. An incredible human and a great resource for the team because he can connect with customers and speak their language and understand the technical depth of their problem or the opportunity that they're going after. I've got a colleague in Dubai, another one in the United Kingdom, one in pretty much every country you can imagine in the world. But with Green, of course, he speaks English. We're able to roughly communicate our ideas back and forth, but sometimes I can just tell that he can't quite say what he wants to say. And so we've started turning on real-time translation, and I just say, Green, tell me in Japanese. And he is all of a sudden free to flow, free to use the words that make sense to him, free to embrace the emotions that come out through human language that are just different and unique to different cultures around the world. And it has taken us to a different level in how we collaborate. So you don't have to believe the marketing hype. I just say, turn this stuff on and start to experiment. All of you have team members and colleagues all over the world. I think Chauncey may show you some demos, but look, I really just wanted to come here. I'm sure there's some Surface fans in the audience to say thank you guys for being interested. Thank you for investing. Thank you for trying. Thank you for giving us your feedback. We won't go build the next 10 years without more of it. So I appreciate that you're here, that you wanted to hear what we have to say. I'm super proud of the products that we've built, super proud of the team that built them, and just grateful to be here. So Chauncey's going to take you through some demos, but thank you guys.
Thanks, Jack. So as Jack mentioned earlier, one of the things about NPUs is it's about that hyper efficiency. You might have noticed on that slide that there were some fans running, because it's not only just about that hyper efficiency, but it's also about heat. And I think one thing that I love about this device in particular is you'll notice that, oh man, this kind of looks like the way that Chauncey thinks, which is a whole bunch of different applications running at once. It's just kind of a mess. That's kind of how my brain is. But one of the things I love about that is I can demonstrate really the power that comes to bear with these new devices. So I'm going to kick off, speaking about a Japanese translation, I'm going to kick off this video. I'm going to keep the audio down here so you guys don't have to listen to it. But you can start to see that it's translating these things live. And that's running entirely on the NPU. And you'll notice that the NPU starts to spike. And in the meantime, things like CPU and GPU are left relatively untouched. Yeah, they're going to be moving, right? Because you still have activation of your CPU. You still have activation of the GPU. But ultimately, all of those AI models are still running on the NPU to kind of offload the CPU and GPU and free up for what it needs. Well, why don't I keep going? I'm going to go ahead and take this QNN model that we have here in the bottom left corner. I'm going to go ahead and let it do some stuff for me. So write a Python script. We'll see what that does. And in the meantime, You'll also notice that the NPU, again, starts to spike here significantly in this case because it's actually using quite a bit of that NPU. But I'm still running everything concurrently. And even more, I'm going to keep it moving. So I'm going to go in here into 𝗬𝗲𝗏, which is one of our ISVs that have brought this amazing application I'll talk about here in a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and kick off the camera here and continue to use the camera. And what's fun about this demo is it's also showing one of the creative filters that I have and all these other Windows Studio effects I have running in the background. So not only am I running translation, I'm running all of the AI models that back all these studio effects. I'm running all of the AI models that back this. And you'll notice that as I move my head left or right, it's actually detecting that, and it's making changes if I had this media up, that it will play for me. And so one thing, again, I'm going to talk about 𝗬𝗏𝗏 here in a little bit, but ultimately this is all about all these AI models coming to bear. Let's keep going. So I've had that presentation, because by the way, all of this stuff was running in the background. I'm going to also have, oh man, shame on me, I've had this Teams meeting running in the background. Oh man, I have all of these different tabs I have on my other desktop. And ultimately the story that I'm trying to bring to bear is that these things can all run simultaneously. If you kind of had all of these AI models just running on CPU and GPU, there's a risk that it would probably like melt the motherboard. I mean, we're talking a lot of different AI models all running concurrently. And that's the future that we're going to. That's the hyper performance. That's the hyper efficiency that NPU brings to these processors. What do you guys think? Cool? All right. So let's go back into this guy. Click the right button. Oh, and I should probably pause YouTube, but that's all right.
This connects back to your device strategy. Chauncey said at the beginning that AI adoption demands a device strategy. I sat with some customers that are in this room that told me, hey, I need a huge workbook because I run a lot of things at the same time and it taxes my device. Maybe you don't need that anymore. Maybe you can buy a different level of CPU that costs less. Like, now these tools are there. You've got to think about the device strategy and how it comes to life for you.
Thank you. And speaking of which, in terms of part of that device strategy, we also want you to be able to think about what it means to bring AI capabilities into your environment. What are the various use cases that you can bring to bear from your industry, from education to healthcare to manufacturing to FinServe? I've been talking to a ton of FinServe lately, especially at this event, about what it means to take legal review and bring that entirely locally. How can I take an application that only needs to access the documents that are local to my device? How can I take healthcare and be able to scan certain maybe skin lesions? I don't want to say that maybe on camera, but skin lesions, and be able to process that and then send that information securely over to like Epic or whatnot, and be able to keep all of that information locally. There's so many different possibilities. And one of the things that I love about Microsoft is you can kind of get that end to end. In fact, we're the only manufacturer arguably out there that offers a full stack from the cloud to hardware, all the way and in between, and all the different tools that you would need to be able to bring AI to bear. And part of that is some of these tools. So you've heard about the Windows Copilot runtime. You probably have maybe seen a few sessions, and that includes a few different things in this stack. So it goes from applications all the way down to frameworks, but I'm going to start at that kind of middle one, which is this idea of the Windows Copilot runtime APIs. This is really the notion that Microsoft is going to do the training for you. We're going to take the models, we're going to train them responsibly, we're going to keep them up to date, and we're going to actually embed them into Windows so you can access them without having to take on all that responsibility. Very low code, minimal amount of code. And by the way, we did a lab this morning, and we're going to do another one this evening if you wanted to kind of take a look at what that means. The other part, though, is maybe you have your own models, and you want to be able to access your own models, but locally on the device. Well, we have the right tool chains to be able to do that with Onyx and Onyx Runtime and some optimization with Olive. And so in the end, you have an end-to-end capability to go across all silicon, across CPU, GPU, and NPU, and x86 and ARM64, and gives that full stack of developer tools to be able to enable AI at your fingertips. And Microsoft's here to help. Like, in fact, if there's anything, I think I saw my manager out in the audience earlier, like, we would love nothing more than to partner with you and to make that a reality. We would love nothing more to work with your partners and your ISVs to bring these AI experiences to bear, because overall, the ecosystem is going to continue to improve. We want to see that. In fact, even, again, going back to that purpose of Surface, moving the ecosystem along. We want to have that. We see that future coming in waves, and we're super happy to be a part of it. And by the way, it's happening. Microsoft's not the only one delivering things. If anything coming out of Ignite, you're probably starting to see a lot of different ISVs adopting these new AI capabilities at the edge. We have a ton of demos, so if you've swung by the hub already, over on the Windows side, you can see some of these new latest ISVs, and I'm going to go into detail about one here soon. But this is just the beginning. I don't know if it's you that says this, maybe Frank that says this, but this is the least amount of apps that we will ever have with AI. It's crazy. We have actually a ton right now, but we will never have less apps than we do today with AI. And moving forward, we're just seeing waves and waves of ISVs starting to adopt AI capabilities at the edge, whether that's running across the processor or running on NPU. Speaking about demos, I've got one more demo for you, and then we can turn it over to maybe some questions if you have any. So we're going to move out. I showed this earlier. This is 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗶ecie, and I'm going to bring that video back up again. 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 does an amazing capability to really, I think, make media and really any interaction with your device as accessible as possible. It's a tool that's really used to bring accessibility and to bring, to change interaction with any interface that's out there, whether that's gaming consoles, Windows devices, you name it. It's a kind of new direction that's being, I think, brought forth because of AI at the edge. In fact, all of these things I've been showing you have been running locally. And so I'm going to get back into the camera here. And you'll notice, again, that in this case, it's monitoring my face. And all this is being done on the NPU. In fact, why don't I bring the browser back, or the task manager back up so you can kind of see that happening. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open my mouth. And you can see that it pauses. I'm going to open it again. And it can run if I want to fast forward or rewind. And this is really just about giving different mediums, different ways to interact with the content. What's cool about, actually, that I love about 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 is that's just a media control profile. You can do things like PowerPoint slides. You can do things like gesturing through voice. I mean, there's so many different capabilities. And 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀 is one of many ISVs that are seeing this new wave of capabilities coming to bear to where we can really change the way that, again, people are interacting with our technology. And it's super exciting. So that's 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. Again, if you guys want to see any of those demos live, we're more than happy to do it back in the hub. Or if you want to kind of check out some of the ISVs, we've got some more on the Windows side. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap real quick and then see if we have any questions. Oops. Let's hit that button. Right there. All right. There we go. All right, so there is a few things that we definitely want to call out. I keep mentioning the hub. If you aren't aware, we have a giant in the middle, smack dab in the middle, all of our kind of PCs. You can see anything from Surface devices to our OEM partners as well. We also have a few more sessions. So our proctor, Jacob over here, is actually going to be helping lead our security session. So it'll be him and my manager, Frank Buchholz, talking about the security that Jack mentioned earlier that's so core to our story. So be sure to check that out. We also have one more lab tonight that is going to going into that BYOM, so that bring your own model experience. Heavy coding for those of you that showed up at 8 o'clock this morning. Thank you very much. It is definitely a deep dive into what it means to bring AI at the edge. I'll selfishly plug some of our blogs and our technical docs. Please visit that. And then if you want to read more about driving business resilience with AI, scan that QR. We've got some great, I think, ideas and thoughts in terms of how you can move your business forward with AI. And with that, I'm going to see if we have any questions. Yeah, what you got? Yeah, and please come to the mic if you do have any. Thank you.
So we are running Copilot today, and we are getting the ARM-based Surface devices, the Copilot Plus PCs. What I would like to understand is what workloads today from the Microsoft 365 stack are currently running on the NPU. There has been some confusion with calls that I've had with Microsoft. They said that, performance is a lot better. I've tried it. I haven't seen any difference in performance, so I would like to understand more about that.
Yeah. You want to take that? You want to go?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I can make it super simple right now, which is Microsoft 365 Copilot is a purely cloud-driven capability today. So any of those things that you're doing in terms of like asking about, hey, I want to interact with my manager or summarize my emails or whatnot, that's all done in the cloud, pure, plain and simple. So that's first thing to think about right there. And there's a purpose for that, right? That's accessing vast amounts of information. It's tapping into that graph. And so we need to be able to access a cloud-driven capability to kind of drive some of that. Now, does that mean that that's ultimately the only way we go? No, absolutely not. I mean, there's ways that we can start looking at cloud capabilities and bringing them local. And so I would say that Microsoft in general is definitely looking at how do we hyper-focus certain workloads and bring them to run on the NPU while still connecting back to your Microsoft 365 graph. But today, Microsoft 365 Copilot, or even the Copilot consumer experience, is purely cloud-driven. The hardware piece of it, though, is that Copilot key. So I am going to like rehash this, because he kind of mentioned like creating pictures and everything. But for me, I use Copilot on an hourly basis. Like I use it daily, all the time in my business. As a marketer, I have to write blogs, I have to write social posts. I'm actually really terrible at LinkedIn, but I do have to write them. And what Copilot provides is this ability for me not to sit and spin. If you can't tell, I kind of ramble a lot. So I gain this ability to really think and focus my thoughts. With a single click of a button, it provides a framework for me to start working. It provides a framework for me to be more productive and get to my job faster and really kind of help resolve things. It also gives me information way faster. Like I can find some details about how to code. I can find details about who to reach out to about Windows Hello. It has really lowered the barrier of having to, I think, work across a very enormous company at unprecedented levels. So I would say, like, even though there is a mostly cloud component, that hardware piece has actually changed my interaction with that capability. Does that answer that question? Cool. What else? Nope.
Yeah, this is more of a product request. Any chance you could come back with a Surface HoloLens?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I'll let you take that one.
And the reason I asked that is we were kind of waiting on Dynamics 365 with the, Dynamics 365 guides with the Copilot integration. I mean, a teaser trailer was put out there, but then the product never materialized. So, just a request.
Registered on the list.
Okay.
Truthfully, the engineering teams sit together, the designers sit together, the software teams sit together. It's one group. So we'll take it back and see what's on the plans.
Yeah, thank you.
How is, I guess, memory requirements going up or staying the same with these new add-ons and MPUs and everything? Are we seeing having to build more into the laptops and everything?
Everything these days seems to need more memory. So yeah, the floor starts to go up towards 16 gigs as about like a foundation instead of 8. But we see customers starting to ask us for more, asking us for 32, asking us for 64. And so, yeah, memory requirements for all these compute loads is going up. And it's really about finding that balance. Again, you're going to need some more memory in certain scenarios. You're going to be able to use the MPU in others. But by and large, I think, yes, it goes up.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing, too, is like, it's kind of an odd concept because we've now moved to a point where I think we've been trained that memory usage is bad for some reason, right? Like we look at RAM being used and all of a sudden that seems to be a scary thing, when in reality, RAM was built to be used. That's its purpose in life. So like, even though like you might see RAM spiking when it comes to AI experiences or whatnot, that's its job. It should be there. So if you're ever looking at a task manager and you're like, oh man, this thing's definitely kind of spiking out. If your experience is still good, that's ultimately what we're wanting to drive, which is why we build these kind of like minimums into our requirements, because we really want to just make sure that experience is solid. But yes, absolutely, RAM does factor into AI usage. What else? Yeah, come on up. Do we have anything online, by the way? Cool.
I saw the slide that you had up earlier with all the AI history of Surface devices, and it got me thinking, like, where do you go next for the next 10 years with Surface devices, particularly around purpose-built devices in this new AI era, like 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, there's the Pin, there's the Rabbit. I'm curious what you guys think about those sort of devices, and does Surface fit in there at all?
Tom?
Yeah.
Nice to
yeah,
see
Tom
you.
Warren at the
I
Verge.
was going to say hi. You look
should
familiar.
disclose that.
I mean, you have access to the team. We spend time together. You push. I think at the moment we're like a giant sponge. Being here this week for me is a huge amount of inspiration. Not everyone from the engineering team can show up, and so I'm here soaking with a small number, and we go back and we start sharing ideas and we start thinking about what we can build. We start thinking about what it would cost to build and if people would pay for what we build at that price. It's a balance. So I'd say we're pretty inspired at the moment, and there's a lot of ideas floating around Building 87, Tom, and you never know what we're going to come up with. Of course, I wouldn't stand here and tell you where we're going.
It's just in the past, obviously, you had Cortana, and now you've got Copilot, so it's like, it feels like there's a device waiting to happen there, right? So
Maybe there is.
maybe
there's
it's in
not.
Building 87, I don't know.
Yeah.
You tell me.
For those of you who don't know, Building 87 is where our primary hardware labs are. It's where we lock up our designers, our engineers, our material scientists, and say, go, think, dream, design, build. And man, there's a lot of stuff behind closed doors that we're playing with, and some of it sees the light of day and some of it doesn't. But the future is bright, no doubt. And with the whole company behind us, there's a lot of exciting things on the horizon.
Yeah.
Is that a good place to stop? Oh, I see one more question over here.
One, two, yeah, it is live. So I have a question more regarding the Surface Studio, which I didn't see in the slides, but it's basically why the lack of removing the fingerprint option from the keyboard. Some companies adopted Windows Hello, and we have, for example, where I work, we use two methods of authentication outside the office and one method of authentication in the office. So then not having the keyboard with the fingerprint reader was a huge bummer, because now we have to buy an external fingerprint reader for that function. And also, why not design a monitor, an external monitor option for the Surface Studio? I feel like I share the sentiment with millions of other people on the internet. Like, why not release a monitor? The only monitor that shares the same specs, same resolution, is only available in China. So when using the aesthetics and trying to match the user experience is very tough.
Yeah. Two good questions. I'd say, we listen to customer feedback, which drives us to put features in products. We also listen to customer feedback, which guides us to take features out of products. It may not be, Jack, I don't need the fingerprint reader, but it might be, Jack, I'm looking for a lower cost. Everything we put into these products brings with it an expense. And it seems that customers all have contradictory points of view. Some people push and say, Jack, take SurfLink out. Other people say, Jack, please leave SurfLink in. And so it's just a constant balance. I hear your push on the fingerprint reader as a valuable source of authentication for you. We're constantly looking at all those, whether it's NFC authentication, Windows Hello, fingerprint, where they fit at the right price points on the right products. But happy to follow up and talk about your specific use case and where it matters. On your second question related to Studio, man, it's a request that we get a lot. That is a product that is still near and dear to my heart. When we started building Surface, it was a product that we had planned, but we couldn't get the hinge just right. So we put it on the shelf, and we kept working, and we kept working, and we kept working. And I'll never forget that launch. For some reason, that song that we used, Pure Imagination, that was tied to the old Willy Wonka video, is just going to be seared into my memory forever as we practice to get on stage and announce that product. The display is incredible. I love it. I use it. And for sure, we hear that feedback. So to the question Tom asked, we're always tinkering, we're always playing, we're always dreaming, we're always thinking. Of course, I'm never going to share a roadmap with a room like this, but duly noted, and you're not the only one asking.
Anything else? All right. Well, thank you so much for attending. We really do appreciate it. Please be sure to fill out the feedback if you can. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.